In designing your project, it is essential to have clear goals and objectives for what you want to accomplish through your project. One of the key ways to make your goals achievable and realistic is to make sure that all of your goals are SMARTIE. SMARTIE is an acronym which ensures that your goals are reachable. The acronym stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, inclusive, and equitable. SMARTIE. So now we're going to take a look at how you can set SMART goals during your project planning process. So the first letter in the acronym is S for specific. So your goal should be specific with a clear goal so that you're able to focus your efforts on that goal. A good example of a specific goal is your goal is to train 30 women in soap making. Next is measurable. Your goal should be measurable so that you can track progress towards achieving your goal. For example, our goal is to recruit 30 women for the soap making workshop. Next is A for achievable. If your goal is not something that you can realistically achieve, then you're likely to get discouraged and struggle or even stop completely along the way. By setting a goal that is actually achievable, you set yourself up for success in your project. A good example of an achievable goal is our goal is to host a 2-day workshop for 15 high school students on environmental protection. Next is relevant. Your goals should all be relevant to the overall goals of your project. Don't get bogged down on side goals or add-ons that don't move forward the key goals of your project. A good example is our goal is to survey all participants on the last day of the workshop to assess the project's impact. Next is T for time bound. Set deadlines for your goals. This helps keep you and all of your team members accountable to a specific schedule so that your project doesn't drag out forever and you are able to keep making progress towards the completion of the project. A good example is the time frame for completing the project is 3 months. Next is I for inclusive. Your goal should be inclusive of marginalized people, particularly those who are most impacted by the subject of your project. You should incorporate these marginalized people into the project management and decision-making process in a way that shares power. Inclusion focuses on who has the power to make decisions about and meaningfully participate in the project. A good example of an inclusive goal would be we will recruit at least 2 people from the community most impacted by our project's focus to serve as leaders in the project design and implementation process. The final letter in the acronym is E, equitable. Your project should include an effort to address systemic inequity and oppression. You should consider if you are providing adequate tools, support, and accommodations for the participants so that they're able to fully participate and who might be historically excluded from this type of activity. An example of an equitable goal is we will provide childcare during the workshop so that participants with childcare responsibilities can participate fully. Now, let's take a look at some goals that are not SMARTIE and think about how we could make them better. So let's take a look at this example. Improve the economic opportunities of women in our community. Pause the video for a moment to think about how you might improve this goal and make it SMARTIE. What would a better example look like? You might change the goal to be improve the economic opportunities for 30 women in our community by hosting a soap making workshop every Saturday in the month of July. Once you've set all of your SMARTIE goals, it's time to create an action plan. An action plan is a checklist for all of the tasks you need to complete in order to achieve the goals you set. An action plan will include your SMARTIE goals, the tasks or steps you need to carry out to reach the goal, who will be in charge of each task, when the task will be completed, and the resources that you will need to complete the task. So you can see that in this chart, we have 4 columns: the task, who the task is assigned to, what the due date is, and the resources that are needed to complete the task. So if you are designing a workshop on environmental training for high school students. Then one task that you'll need to complete would be creating graphics to advertise the workshop at the local high schools. So you might assign this to Darius, tell him that it needs to be done by March 15th, and he'll need graphic design software and a computer to complete the task. Another task that you might need would be to reserve a room at the local community center. You might assign this to Rosemary. She needs to have this done by March 18th, and she'll need a phone to complete this in order to call the community center. Some other tasks might be sending advertisements to local high schools and contacting a local environmental group to ask for them to come to the workshop as a trainer. In this video, we have learned how to set SMARTIE goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, inclusive, and equitable. We also have learned how to develop an action plan for your project. After watching this video, practice setting SMARTIE goals for your own project and start developing an action plan. Once you've done this, move on to the next video to learn how to pitch your project and develop partnerships.